You're walking down a quiet street at night, and nothing happens. No footsteps behind you, no shadow in the wrong place, nothing you could point to and explain. And yet, your stomach tightens, your pace quickens, and you cross to the other side without ever deciding to. You didn't think your way into that decision. Something older than thinking made it for you. We call it a gut feeling, and most of us treat it like a small mystery, a strange little glitch in an otherwise logical mind. But what if it isn't a glitch at all? What if that tightening in your stomach is a message from a survival system that's been running unbroken for 300,000 years? To understand where that feeling comes from, you have to picture your ancestor standing at the edge of a grassland in East Africa, sometime around the emergence of Homo sapiens. There's no time to reason through every rustle in the grass. A predator doesn't wait for a full risk assessment. The humans who survived long enough to have children weren't the ones who stopped to calmly weigh the odds. They were the ones whose bodies reacted first and asked questions later. That reaction had to travel fast, faster than conscious thought, so evolution built it into the body itself. Your gut is lined with more nerve cells than your spinal cord, enough that scientists sometimes call it the second brain. It's in constant contact with your actual brain through the vagus nerve, a long cable of signals running both directions. When something in your environment doesn't add up, your gut can register it before your conscious mind even finishes the sentence, "Something's wrong." The neuroscientist Antonio Damasio spent years studying patients with damage to a small region of the brain that connects emotion to decision-making. What he found upended a very old assumption. These patients could still reason perfectly. They could list pros and cons all day. But without the emotional gut signal feeding into the process, they became strangely paralyzed, unable to actually choose. Damasio called this the somatic marker hypothesis, the idea that your body tags certain options with a feeling before your mind ever gets around to analyzing them. Pure logic, it turns out, was never enough. You needed the gut in the room. Think about that for a second. The feeling isn't separate from your intelligence. It is part of it. Here's where it gets stranger. Your gut isn't just reacting to danger in front of you. It's comparing what's happening right now to a vast, invisible library of pattern, most of it before you were even old enough to speak. Psychologist Gerd Gigerenzer has spent decades studying what he calls fast and frugal heuristics, the mental shortcuts your brain uses instead of grinding through every variable. His research found that in many real-world situations, these gut-level shortcuts actually outperform slow, careful analysis. Not because they're lazy, because they're built from thousands of tiny data points your conscious mind never had time to notice consciously. Which brings us to the firefighters. In the 1980s, researcher Gary Klein sat down with veteran firefighters and asked them to walk him through their most dangerous calls. Over and over, he heard the same kind of story. A commander would pull his crew out of a burning building seconds before the floor collapsed, and when Klein asked how he knew, the firefighter usually said something like, "I just had a bad feeling." But when Klein dug deeper, the feeling wasn't random at all. The room was too hot for the size of the flames. The fire was too quiet. Small details the commander's mind had absorbed without ever naming them, until his gut did the naming for him. Klein realized these weren't lucky hunches. They were highly trained pattern recognition running below conscious awareness. The same system your ancestor used at the edge of that grassland, just aimed at a burning building instead of a lion in the grass. So when you feel a stranger's smile land wrong or sense that a business deal is off before you can say why, you're not being irrational. You're running the oldest software humans have ever built, refined across hundreds of thousands of years by the simple, brutal fact that the people who trusted it survived to pass it on. Of course, this system isn't perfect. It evolved for a world of predators and small tribes, not group chats and job interviews. Sometimes your gut fires when there's truly nothing wrong at all, mistaking a crowded subway car for the kind of exposed, unpredictable space your ancestors learned to fear. That's the trade-off. A system built for speed will occasionally be wrong, because being occasionally wrong was always safer than being too slow. But here's the counterintuitive part, the part most people never stop to consider. Modern culture has spent the last century training you to distrust this system. We're taught that real intelligence lives entirely in conscious, logical, step-by-step reasoning, and that anything else is just superstition wearing a lab coat. Yet the evidence keeps pointing the other way. Chess grandmasters recognize a winning position in a fraction of a second, long before they can explain why. Emergency room doctors sense which quiet patient is secretly the sickest one in the room. Parents wake up seconds before their child cries, pulled from sleep by nothing they could describe. In every case, something registered the pattern before the mind caught up to name it. Your gut feeling, in other words, isn't the opposite of intelligence. It's intelligence running at a different speed. Compressed from experience, your conscious mind never had time to file away one memory at a time. So the next time that quiet unease creeps in, before you can explain it, before you can point to a single reason, remember what's actually happening underneath. You're not being irrational. You're listening to a survival system that has been passed down unbroken through every single ancestor who lived long enough to raise you. Every one of them trusted that feeling at least once, and it was right enough, often enough, that you exist to feel it too. Maybe the real question isn't why we sometimes get a strange gut feeling for no reason. Maybe it's why we ever convinced ourselves there was no reason at all. So the next time you're walking down a quiet street and nothing happens and your stomach tightens anyway, don't brush it off as nothing. It's not nothing. It's 300,000 years of your ancestors, quietly, telling you to listen.